I am Leslie Ralph. I am a clinical psychologist. I have been working in this particular position, oh my goodness, for 7 years now, almost. 2011 was when I started here.
How did you know that being a clinical psychologist is what you wanted to do?
Well, I always felt drawn to helping people. Even as a kid, I would listen to people's stories, and I'm the kind of person who will get everybody's life story on an airplane. So I've always been interested in it, and this just seemed like kind of the next logical step. I majored in psychology, and the next step after that is grad school, and I just followed the steps that were ahead of me.
So what is a typical day like and a typical week for you?
Typically, I spend most of my time one-on-one seeing students here at the university for therapy. So somewhere between 6 and 7 one-on-one appointments in a day. And then I also have time to do paperwork, work on campus, doing outreach activities, presentations, workshops. I've run a few groups.
How long does each appointment last?
About 45 minutes to an hour.
Does each day of the week sort of have the same tasks, or are any days sort of set aside for certain things?
Pretty much every day is about the same. There's some days that I have groups that I don't have on other days, but more or less every day is about the same. It's one-on-one time with some paperwork time, and here and there a workshop or something sprinkled in.
What is the paperwork for?
We need to document what we do. So anytime I meet with a student for an appointment, I need to make a note of it. It goes into their medical record. It helps me know what we've been working on, but also as part of the billing for their insurance and part of their medical chart.
What do you like or not like about your job, and what are the pros and cons of this type of work?
Well, I do really like helping students. I love hearing the stories, and one thing I really like about working with students is that there's such a focus on learning and growing, and everybody's so energetic, and even when they are infuriating, students are very endearing. So it's a really great group to work with. It can be challenging though, because as you can imagine, there's a lot of stress that comes along with being a college student, and so working in a college setting, we kind of take on some of that stress. I can definitely feel it when we are hitting midterms and finals. And so burnout can be a major part of a major struggle with this work.
Have you ever worked in a setting other than a college campus?
I've worked in a juvenile court. I've worked briefly doing forensic evaluations in prisons. I've worked in family therapy and adult psychiatry departments. I've done autism, ADHD assessments. So as part of our training, we actually go to a lot of different settings.
Can you share a little bit about each of those and how those settings and environments can be different than at school?
Well, for one, the people are very different. So in family therapy, you work primarily with families, so you're working with a large group, often with young children, and having to balance the working with the child. It's often some kind of child behavior problem, but then the parents' role in that. So that's very different from what we do here, which is one-on-one. In the forensic evaluations, we're dealing with people who've been charged with a crime and awaiting trial, so it's a very different kind of work and different sort of person. A lot more assessment of psychosis, serious mental illness, versus here in a college campus where we're talking a lot about anxiety and depression and developmental kinds of concerns. Adult psychiatry is also a lot more serious mental illness than you might see in a college counseling center, though for sure we see some pretty intense situations and deal with real illnesses, but often college students are really high functioning, really motivated, have a lot of support and resources with them.
If there is a student who is thinking about, their stress or anxiety, what sort of resources, is there anything that you recommend?
If I'm understanding the question right.
So you said that people here usually have support and resources. What specifically do you mean?
Okay, so other resources on campus might include obviously your friends, right, family, but there's the think tank if it's more academic stress. So we see a lot of test anxiety. So the we might say, well, go get some tutoring at the think tank. Often they have advisors or mentors or an RA or some other person that they can go to talk to. If there's academic problems, a lot of times students meet with their advisor to help them sort out more logistically what to do. So they're never as alone as maybe seeing somebody who's just off in the real world.
For someone aspiring to succeed in this field, what path or steps do you recommend?
Well, if you want to work in a clinical setting, you need to have at least a master's degree or a PhD or other doctoral degree. So the steps to get into those positions are to go to undergrad, major in psychology or something related, and then often have some kind of work experience or research experience. And those are some of the steps that you can take to get into graduate school. And then when you're in graduate school, depending on the program, getting to a feel for what you want to do with it, you could go into teaching or research or one-on-one clinical work or more program development. So kind of it's choose your own adventure, finding the little opportunities to get training in what you're interested in. And then after that, there's postdoc, there's internships. So there is no one-size-fits-all path besides just choosing what interests you.
And you said one of the options was program work. What exactly does that mean? What are different types of programs?
There are perhaps community mental health agencies or departments on a college campus or in a hospital that they might put a larger program together where it's more outreach into the community or preventive services or services for a special population such as children who've been abused or something like that. And so it's a little different from doing just straight one-on-one clinical work in a private practice or in a setting like a college counseling center, that you're often writing grants, you're working with the community to try to put together and bring in resources to have a program to share with the community.
Is there anything else that people should know about working in this field or in this career?
That it's always changing, and that even though you are working as a therapist, that doesn't mean that you've got all the answers and that you're responsible for solving all the problems. I think a lot of us get into it thinking we're gonna fix everybody and that everybody's gonna really love us, and it's not really like that. That sometimes the best you can do is be there and be present and witness and offer validation to somebody and trust that they will be able to sort through it on their own. And also it's very important to take care of yourself. I think that's something that we don't hear often enough, is to practice what you preach and take good care of yourself.
Do you have any specific tips on self-care?
Of course, good nutrition and sleep, having activities that you enjoy outside of work, generally activities that are creative, productive, and active, get you moving, are going to be better than, say, a Netflix binge every evening. Things that bring meaning into your life are also really good to do.
Do you have a particular quote or rule or concept in general that helps you succeed?
Well, there's one written here: let the light in to let your light out, is to always be looking for the thing that lights you up and makes you feel alive. And when you make room for that, you let the best parts of yourself out. So that's been helpful for me.
I love that. What is important advice for young adults?
Well, one would be that sometimes the journey you're on doesn't make sense until you get a little bit further out and get some perspective. So I think sometimes it can feel so urgent and like this all has to be solved right now. I have to know exactly where I'm going. I have to plan it all. And, it's good to have a plan, but maybe not. Maybe it's okay to let it take its course and go slowly, and remember that you have not seen how this ends. So if it feels like you're failing at something or you're lost or confused, just trust that you will find your way.
Thank you so much for your time today.
Sure.